meantime, appreciate everybody's patience with us as we have technical difficulties, as always. After 2 years of Zooming, we would have everything down, but the universe never fails to throw something new at us. So let us go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I am Marcella Marlowe. I'm the city manager here for the city of San Marino and delighted to be here as always. Let's go ahead to the next slide, please. Nicole? Or Nicole, who's trying to do 40 million things at one moment. I appreciate it. All right. So just our very important housekeeping items. We do have an interpreter present tonight to interpret into Mandarin. So if you would please go down to where it gives you the translate options, please select either English or Mandarin. You must select one of those two. If you are looking for English, you still need to select English. Otherwise, you'll have a tough time seeing hearing what you need to hear. So please go ahead and select either English or Mandarin. If you have a question, please go ahead and type it into the Q&A box, and then we'll answer questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much. I see, Nicole, that Vice Mayor Talt has rejoined us, but we probably need to get him somehow into our queue somehow. So, and then in the midst of doing all of that, if you would please jump to the next slide. All right, we do have some announcements to share with you tonight. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please, if you would. All right, so our wonderful 4th of July event is coming. We are headed towards our July 4th event, and our wristbands are going to be going on sale soon. So we're very excited to continue again after returning last year. So please get ready to purchase those wristbands to join us for the 4th of July. And then, of course, we have some upcoming events / meetings. Our city council meeting, of course, is Wednesday night. That's this Wednesday at 6 p.m. And you can attend that either via Zoom or live at the San Marino Center. And then our advisory bodies are meeting throughout the remainder of the month: the Design Review Committee, the Public Safety Commission, the Planning Commission, and the Library Board of Trustees. Those are all virtual via Zoom. If you'd like to join us, the dates and times are there. Please feel free to join us. Go ahead to the next slide, please. All right. As always, it's important to stay connected. This is how we let you know what's going on in the city and give you important information. So if you would like to be subscribed to our e-newsletter, you can text us to sign up right there. We also have social media with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Please go ahead and follow us and see our important information there. And if you'd like to be part of our emergency alerts, that's our Nixle system. Please text San Marino PD to 888-777, and we do send out some important updates for your safety, and also when there are reasons to stay away from certain areas. We like to let the residents know about that as well. So please don't hesitate to sign up for that. All right, thank you so much. So, this is who we are tonight, and I see that Vice Mayor Talt has joined us again, but we still don't seem to have a picture for him. So please remember this picture that's on the screen and hold it near and dear to your heart, and you will know what Vice Mayor Talt looks like if somehow you don't happen to know what he looks like yet. Our panel tonight is, of course, Vice Mayor Talt and myself, and our city clerk, Christina Baker, who you may have seen in more of a support capacity, but she is instrumental to many of the things that we do, including elections, which of course is why we're here tonight. So we will be sharing a variety of information, with you. Why don't you go ahead to the next slide, please, Nicole? So this is our agenda for the evening. We are right in the middle of our welcome and introductions right now, just in case that was not abundantly clear. From there, I'm going to move into talking a little bit about the roles and responsibilities of city council members. I should have started off with this. We are here tonight to talk about why San Marino needs you. We do have an election coming up in November, a municipal election, and there are 3 city council seats that are up for election or re-election. And so we thought it might be helpful to host a session tonight on what's involved with being a council member. Perhaps you are thinking about it. Perhaps you have friends who are thinking about it. Perhaps you have friends that you are thinking about it for. and you want to get a little bit of information about what's involved in being a council member. So that's what we're going to be going over tonight. I will be doing some general information about roles and responsibilities, but there's nothing quite like hearing it from one of your own peers. And so Vice Mayor Talt is joining us. He is the presumed incoming mayor for next year with those who get elected. And he is not up for re-election this November, so we have no campaign issues to be concerned about. Vice Mayor Talt did graciously agree to join us tonight to share his experience about things that you might need to know if you are thinking about running for city council. Some here's what we get to do, here's what we don't get to do, here are the things that you should be keeping in mind. So he is our expert witness tonight and here to share his insight with you. We will wrap up the formal portion of our presentation with our city clerk, Christina Baker, and she will share the technical aspects of how to become a city council member, literally, what kinds of paperwork you need to fill out, what's the process, what are the dates, those sorts of things. So she'll take that part of the conversation, and then we'll open it up for Q&A with whatever time we have left and bring us to a conclusion. So before we dive into everything, I just want to thank Nicole Quadras, who is our community engagement manager, is doing triple and quadruple duty tonight, trying to run the technical aspect of this meeting. She'll also be facilitating our Q&A at the end. So thank you so much, Nicole, for everything that you do to help us out. So let us go ahead and dive into the roles and responsibilities of a council member. And as I mentioned, this will be my portion. I want to let you know that this information all exists in a different format, in a flyer. That flyer is available on our website. We are in the process of translating that flyer into Chinese as well. You can find it on our elections page, and City Clerk Baker will talk a little bit more about that elections page. I'm just going to go over some general information, but all of that information is there in the flyer. So you don't need to take notes or take a screenshot. We have that information for you. No need to worry about that. All right, so as you can see here, these are the basics. First, we are in a council manager form of government. There are many forms of government for municipalities. Ours is the council manager form of government. And what that means is that the city council and the city manager exist in hopefully a partnership together to run our organization in a way that serves the community. In a council manager form of government, the city council's responsibility is everything related to policy. The council sets the direction for the city, establishes the policies that we are going to follow, and then it's the city manager's part of the responsibility to implement all of those decisions. So the city council has responsibility for policy making, and the city manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the organization. And it's important that both groups do their part with commitment and dedication. And I think that we have been doing that for the last several years, and I'm certainly excited for that to continue. I think probably Vice Mayor Talt will speak a little bit about that when he talks about his experience as well. The next point, we are a general law city. That means that we are bound by the California State Government Code. What's important about that, you may have heard people talk about charter cities. We are not a charter city. We are a general law city. And the most important thing that that means is that the state of California sets laws that we are bound by, even when they seem like things that are very, very local in nature. The best example of something that has been in the community's interest for the last little while here and getting more and more serious are land use and planning issues. So the state has taken a very active role in telling local municipalities what we can and cannot do in our cities. Even though it seems like a city issue, it's governed by the state. Next, you can see that we have 5 city council members. They are at large. What that means is that they are elected by the whole city. We don't have district elections. There are some cities that are divided into districts, and each district elects their own representative. That's not how we are in San Marino at this point. All of our candidates and our council members are elected by the community at large. So the community elects 5 city council members. Typically, those terms are for 4 years. We are just concluding a period of time where all of the council members either are completing serving 5 years or are about to complete 5 years. And that was to realign our election per the state, who wanted us to have our elections in even numbered years. So we had to do some realigning. But this election coming up this November will be for a 4-year term for each of those 3 seats. And then every year the council does what we call reorganizes. And that means they select a new mayor and vice mayor from among themselves. So typically, whoever the vice mayor is moves into the mayor spot, and then there's a new vice mayor selected, and so on and so forth. And that is why I said at the beginning that Vice Mayor Talt is presumed to be next year's mayor. Finally, most importantly, and I don't mean to end on a disappointing note, but there is no compensation for council members. That is unusual about San Marino. In many cities, there is some sort of compensation for council members, even if it's a stipend of some sort. But in San Marino, there was a conscious decision to not offer compensation for this position, and perhaps Vice Mayor Talt will speak about that. Of course, you get lots of compensation in terms of gratitude and appreciation, and lots of communication from residents and staff, but there is no financial compensation. So that is important to note. I want to be sure we have that out there. All right, let's go ahead to the next slide. All right. Time commitments. There may be questions about this later where we get a little bit more specific, but in general, these are the time requirements. The first and most obvious obligation on your time will be council meetings. And so those council meetings are regularly the second Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m., except for August. We try to go dark in August. And then also there is usually a second meeting in the month, which is held on the last Friday at 8:30 a.m. We go dark in August for that meeting also, and also for November and December, because that last Friday often falls in conflict with the holidays. And so it makes sense to just cancel that meeting. So second meeting of the month, second Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. and the last Friday of the month at 8:30 a.m., except for the times that we go dark. There are times, there's Vice Mayor Talt's face. There are times that we have special meetings scheduled as needed. And the most common reasons we might need to schedule a special meeting are because we're in budget season and we need some extra meetings to talk through the budget, which we just concluded this year, or potentially we're in the meet and confer process, which is union negotiations with our employees. Those often require special meetings as well. So that is the general schedule for council meetings. The next time commitment that you would have is community events. As elected representatives of the community, you are often sought after to attend events of all kinds, whether it's formal events or casual events. Your presence is often desired by your residents, and so that is a time commitment for you to manage as well. Third, you will be assigned liaison roles, and you might liaison with regional bodies. You might liaison with our own advisory bodies, Planning Commission, DRC, Public Safety Commission, Library Board of Trustees, Recreation Commission, and so forth. Or you might have specific subject matter issues. So we have tree liaisons, and we have a budget liaison, and we have legal liaisons, and so forth. So there are those extra meetings, and there's some flexibility there in terms of how much time you spend, how much time you choose to spend, and perhaps Vice Mayor will talk about that a little bit later as well. We can also entertain some questions about what the variability of those time commitments looks like. And then last but not least, and obviously the best part of the job, are regular meetings with the city manager and other staff. I typically meet with council members anywhere from 2 to 4 times a month, and we just go over whatever the issues are. It gives you, as an elected official, an opportunity to raise concerns with me, to ask questions, to get information that you might be needing. And then there could potentially be meetings with other staff as well, if you have specific kind of subject matter specific questions that you want to get answered. We want to be sure to put you with the subject matter experts on that. All right, let's go ahead to the next slide, Nicole. Thank you. We were trying to brainstorm to get people's attention piqued about what might be coming up, what might be some of the things that the new council will be focused on. And so these are some of the things that we thought might be on the horizon. I should say there's no magic to this. Part of being the policymakers of the city is that really it falls to the council to decide what your priorities are. So once the council is seated, you will tell me what your priorities are, not the other way around. But these are some of the things that we thought might be on your horizon. So first, we did a strategic plan in 2018. And by the time the new council is seated, that will have been 5 years. So it'll probably be time to do an update to that strategic plan if that's something that the council wants to do. The next thing is our diversity, equity, and inclusion task force recommendations. So we've been engaging in a process to meet with the community. We have a task force that's appointed, and by the time the new council is seated, we may have recommendations that need to be implemented. So that could be on the horizon. Next is economic development. We've had a lot of desires about what our economic development program might look like, and we haven't had as much success. So the new council may spend some time thinking about those sorts of things. And then last but not least, we think that finding something to do with Stoneman will also be on the council's horizon. We are in the process of trying to make some decisions about the San Marino Center. And if those decisions do indeed get made, we may be able to turn to some questions about what we want to do with Stoneman, which is a beautiful facility, but quite large, underutilized, in desperate need of some TLC and some answers about what we're going to do. So those are just some things that we thought might pop up. And that is enough for me for right now. And so I am happy to turn it over to the videoed Vice Mayor Steve Tall.
Thank you, Marcella, and thank you all for, at one point or another, coming and listening on to this, if you want to run for city council. I want to draw off of some of the things that the city manager said and talk about some of the important, sometimes misperceptions of what a city council member does and some limitations on what we can do. I know that the city manager mentioned that we are a city council, city manager type government. That means we do not have a quote unquote strong mayor. Our mayor is not elected independent of the rest of the council. It is elected as a council member and then selected by the council to act as mayor. The important thing of that is that the mayor therefore has limited powers beyond which a normal council member would have. Those powers that it does have independent of the council is and it's more out of what is custom and practice than anything else. Our mayor will set the agenda for any upcoming meetings and appoint the liaisons, the city council members who will liaise with various members, various other council members. Council members will liaise with various other committees and commissions within the town. Some people don't understand that. We are not a strong mayor situation, and it's the city council as a group that, as Dr. Morrow said, sets the policy and performs its other obligations. One of the other misconceptions that people have is that we have no jurisdiction over the schools. Schools are an independent jurisdiction. They elect their own board. They are administered by the education code. They're administered by the county and the state through the education department. And it is not the responsibility one way or the other of the city council to engage in what is otherwise city business, or pardon me, school business, with the following exceptions. The city does provide police and fire protection. The city does provide some grant funds from its coffers that include transportation funds, as well as we, as part of our contract with our franchisees, provide trash service to the high school. There's also some other elements that we provide, but we have to be careful because the law precludes us from gifting money, and that is there has to be a connection to city business before you could provide money to what would otherwise be a third party. So it's something that we have to exercise carefully. The final misconception that I want to make clear, I know that Dr. Morrow mentioned, is that it is in our code very specifically that a city council member does not hire and fire any employee other than the city manager. And as a result, people believe that we could tell the fire department what to do, or the police department, or any specific other area of our government. We cannot. We operate through the city manager. We can tell the city manager what we'd like to see done. The city manager has some discretion in that regard, but she is the only employee of the city council, full-time city employee. And that's important to know. We do have a right per statute of inquiry. That means we're not precluded from asking questions of the various department heads or any employee. However, we cannot tell them what to do. One thing that is unique to San Marino for a city manager, city council's government is we are one of the few cities that the city council has a right for advice and consent on the hiring of department heads. And that is very unique, and it makes San Marino very unique in that regard. And that is that before the city manager could hire or fire a city department head, a director, he or she must confer with the city council. What powers does the city council have? Let me take you through the municipal code for a second. Council elections we've discussed. Council elections they're supposed to occur every 4 years because of a change in state law. It allowed us to have one for 5 years, where when Stephen Wong and I were reelected, it was a 5-year term. At the time, we could have just chosen a 5-year term for our previous term, but we didn't want to do that. So ours ends in 2024, where the other 3 council members end now. It is a citywide election. We do not have districts within the city like other towns do, but there is absolutely no need to do that because of the makeup of our city. Council organization I discussed, we have a mayor, we have a vice mayor, and you have 3 council members. All council members, they will either be liaisons or they may sit on what we refer to often as task force or blue ribbon committees. The council meeting is chaired by the mayor. If the mayor's not available, by the vice mayor. No compensation is available, although the city council does have a budget of about $25,000 where it has hospitality, where if we're going to have an early meeting, we will be served dinner, or if we're going to have a late morning meeting, we will be served lunch, which is nice. We also get a city phone, which is paid for by the city for emergency purposes. And as mentioned down below, the term limits are 2 terms, and a term is considered 2 years, I believe. And then in case you're appointed, and then you could go off for 2 years and if you so desire, run again. Let's flip to the next slide, if you will. So what does the city council do? As Dr. Marlowe says, we set policy. And a lot of our policy is through the ordinances that we pass or ordinances that we don't pass or we take off the books. Those deal a lot with day-to-day problems of the city, day-to-day problems of the residents, including changing zoning codes, changing enforcement laws, the basic governmental function of policy is directed through the council. The council, as I mentioned, also hires and fires the city manager. It says here that we must appoint, and it lists 3 points or 3 areas. First of all, the law is written that we may appoint a city attorney, and we do have a city attorney just because of the complex issues sometimes we deal with. We do have a city attorney that attends all of our city council meetings. The only one out of this list that we must or shall appoint is the city treasurer, and the city council appoints the city treasurer. City engineer is once again discretionary as to whether or not we appoint one. Next slide, please. The city council also appoints various members, various appointees to commissions here in town. That includes the design review committee, the Public Safety Commission, the Library Board, the Planning Commission. There may be others that I'm missing right now that we appoint. It is done, each of those bodies has their own set of rules. Each of their bodies has their own set of obligations. If you were to highlight, not necessarily to highlight the importance of what they do, but the one that's listed first in the code is the Planning Commission, which has five members and then alternates as well. The Planning Commission's obligations are to have hearings regarding real property and regarding the development of the city. They focus on those aspects. We can also assign them any duty under the government code, but our Planning Commission, while it does hear some of the ordinances and review some of the ordinances that we've done before, the principal job of the Planning Commission is to review our development policy. They also will have hearings that, based upon the code, they're either the body of first review or the body of appeal from the design review committee. They are, it says here, Planning Commission duties versus City Council authority. The difference is the Planning Commission will recommend matters to the City Council authority. It can decide issues, and if they're not appealed to us, they become final. But it's the City Council that then takes recommendations from the Planning Commission, let's say on development, and implements that policy after a public hearing. Library board duties, interestingly enough, the library board duties are under our education code and not under our government code. According to the education code, every city of a certain means must have a library, and under the education code, that library is directed through a board of trustees, and the library board's duties are to buy the books, expends funds that are provided through the budget for the development, hire people to work at the library. That's typically done through the city. So it's their responsibility to look over our board. Once again, if they act, especially if it's a budgetary item, the City Council, they will make a recommendation to the City Council, and the City Council, whose one of their primary functions is to oversee the treasury of the city, will implement those based upon the recommendation. The El Molino Viejo Advisory Board is basically the old mill, and they function the old mill. They're pretty autonomous, actually, although if they need funds for improvements, for lights and so forth, the City Council will provide it. There are other policies and procedures that we must review. We have them under agreement, the Old Mill Foundation under agreement, and they oversee the Old Mill. Once again, when it comes to City Council authority, if there's a policy that the advisory board wants, it is the City Council who must review that and put that policy in place. The item with respect to approved purchases and contracts over $30,000. Under our code, the city manager has authority to expend funds up to $30,000. The city manager cannot go out and execute a contract for the redevelopment of, let's say, the bus stop where the Christmas house is, if that is over $30,000. Only the City Council can expend that. Furthermore, if there's any change orders on any project that would either take the full value over $30,000 or extend a value over $30,000 to even more, regardless if it's only $50 or $500, the City Council must approve it. It's one of the checks and balances that we have in our city government. The we also approved the sale of city property, and we also establish all the city fees. We do that on an annual basis as required by law. If I get the next, let me finish about the time element. The time element is really what you put into it. For myself, it all depends upon the length of the a meeting and what's presented. Sometimes we have presented 450, 500 pages. It takes a while to go through it. So it all depends upon what the city meeting is going to be about and the information we have. Well, as you get into acting as city council member, you understand where your detail needs to go. Let's see, Emma, and really involving yourself in community events. It's important for the mayor to be there. It's important for the vice mayor to be there if the vice mayor is invited, but it is something that is really dependent upon your own schedule. And that is also as a liaison. The idea of being a liaison is you're supposed to, if they have any questions, come to you. You don't need to attend every one of their meetings. A lot of people do, but that is really up to you. I would love to answer any questions, but that's my perspective.
All right, thank you very much, Vice Mayor. We are going to turn to the final part of our formal presentation, and I am delighted to momentarily turn it over to our city clerk, Christina Baker. Hopefully you came tonight because your curiosity is piqued and you think that maybe serving on the city council is something that would be fun. Maybe you came because you just wanted to hear how much work our current council members have been doing, and it is indeed a lot. But this is a very real topic, and we have a very real need. I believe that there will be an article in the Tribune later this week, but I have confirmed that there are 2 council members who have told me directly that they are not running for re-election this fall. So that would be our current mayor, Susan Jacobowski, and our former mayor, current council member, Ken Udy. Both of them are not running for another term. That means that no matter what, there are 2 seats wide open. Councilmember Shepherd Rami has not made any public announcements yet, so I don't know what to say on that front, but it does mean that there are 2 seats that are available. And that is, I just want to say as a city manager, that is daunting. Those are 2 very important seats. And Vice Mayor Talt shared with you all of the responsibilities. I don't know that either of us have done a good job sharing with you all of the fun and the joy that comes from being a council member. So perhaps the Vice Mayor can talk about that a little bit later. It is an opportunity really to help guide the direction of your city and your community. And it really is a higher purpose. So we hope that it is something that is interesting for you. We do need very real candidates this fall in November. So please do be sure that your listening ears are open because we do have things here that we're going to need you for. So without any further ado on that front, I will turn it over to City Clerk Baker to walk us through, if you are interested, what should you do? Take it away.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marlowe and Vice Mayor Talt. I'm going to go through some of the.
Sorry, I must interrupt one more time. There's one more thing I wanted to say, which is if you have questions, please feel free to start typing them now. I apologize. I wanted to say that. Don't wait until we say it's Q&A time to start typing, because then we'll be sitting in that awkward silence. So if you do have questions for any of us, or if you would like to hear Vice Mayor Talt talk about the great joy of being a council member, please go ahead and start typing those questions in there so that when the time comes, we are ready to go. So I apologize, Christina. Please go ahead.
That's all right. Thank you. So as mentioned earlier, I will be going through some of the technical aspects of the election. So first, eligibility. As you can see from the slide, you must be a United States citizen. You must be 18 years of age or older, and you must be a resident of San Marino. And for resident, what that means, you have to be a resident for 15 days prior to the date of you filing your nomination papers, and you have to be a resident through your entire term of office. So if you leave, can't serve anymore. You must also be registered to vote within the city of San Marino, and that has to be in place before you turn in your nomination papers. Next slide. All right, probably some of the most important information is the nomination period. So July 18th, that's the day. That is the day that you can pull your nomination papers. And I'll go into that a little bit more, what that really means. August 12th is the deadline to submit your papers to officially declare that you would like to be a candidate. And as Dr. Marlowe said, we do know that we have 2 council members that have already stated they will not be running for re-election. So when that happens, we do extend the deadline to submit papers until August 17th. But, always better to turn things in earlier rather than later. And then the next date is August 18th. And that is when the Secretary of State determines the order of the names on the ballot, and that's by random drawing. Next slide, please. All right, nomination papers. So they are obtained from me, and you have to do that in person. I cannot send them electronically. It's a hard copy. It's a whole process. So you do have to come in. I ask that you please make an appointment with me so I make sure I'm here and we have plenty of time to go through all the paperwork and documentation. The nomination papers, it's what you circulate to your fellow residents. The minimum number of signatures required is 20. You can get up to 30. We recommend somewhere in there because there could inevitably be signatures that don't qualify. And they don't qualify because a voter can only sign the number of nomination papers for the number of seats available. So in this instance, that's 3. So voters can sign 3 different sets of nomination papers, and the first ones in are the ones that count. And the nomination papers can only be circulated by one person. That can be the candidate themselves, or it could be somebody else, but it can only be one person. And both the circulator and the candidate will sign those papers. Okay, go ahead. And okay, so then there's additional documentation that must be filed with your nomination papers. The first is a ballot designation worksheet. And what this is when you get your voter pamphlet ahead of time, when you get your voter pamphlet now, you see the candidate's name, and underneath they can have a designation. 3, and in this instance, you get 3 words that you can designate either your principal profession, your vocation, or your occupation. You don't have to have a designation, but if you do want one, you do need to turn in the ballot designation worksheet along with your nomination papers. Otherwise, you will not get one on the ballot. There's also a transliteration form. If you would like translation services outside of what is the standard of the county, then you would need to turn that in as well. And there could be a fee for that. You need to turn in what's the Fair Political Practice Commission's Form 700, Statement of Economic Interest. And this is on this form, you report any investments, business entities, property, income that's within the San Marino jurisdiction. And this is used to help determine any possible conflicts of interest. It does need to be turned in along with your nomination papers as well. And then there's also the candidate statement information sheet. So if you would like, you don't have to, but if you would like a candidate statement to go along with your name on the ballot or on the voter pamphlet, you can turn in a candidate statement. And then if you do that, you also need to turn in this candidate statement information sheet, which has a bunch of details on it. And then you also need to turn in the Form 501 or Statement of Intention. And this is really how you're declaring that you intend to run for City Council. And very important with the Form 501 is that it has to be turned in before you solicit or receive any contributions for your campaign. So please keep that in mind. Make sure you get that turned in before you start having any funds being associated with your campaign. And then there's also, the city does have a $25 filing fee that needs to be turned in at the same time as well. Next slide. But don't worry, there's a handbook. We have a handbook with all of this information and more, and all of the forms. And when you come to pick up the nomination papers, I will either give you a hard copy of this handbook, or I can give you an electronic copy, or both. That will have plenty of details in there about all of those forms and more. And that's really a high level, quick version of the basics to get going to become a city council member. Once you've submitted all your paperwork, there's a few forms that have to happen prior to election and then after election season, but that's really the meat of it. Of course, if you have any questions or want to set up that appointment to come in for nomination papers, my contact information is here, and you can go to the city's website at cityofsanmarino.org/elections, And you can find that one pager that Dr. Marla was talking about and additional information regarding the election as well. And that's it.
Can I just make a couple more comments before Q&A?
Sure.
I just want to express to people, I know I went over a lot of details with respect to what the job obligation is, but I want to say that my perspective, what I've done has been very rewarding. First of all, when I ran, and since then, I've met a lot of people in the city of San Marino, and I will tell you that 95% of those people are appreciative of what you do. The other 5% either don't care, or some people do get upset at some of the decisions you make. But 95% of the people are truly appreciative of the time that you put in and the effort that you make and the decisions you make. And so it's not, people sometimes refer to it not being a very favorable job because you have to deal with a citizenry. In my opinion, that's entirely 180 degrees the opposite. I've enjoyed meeting people. I've enjoyed getting to know city staff. I've enjoyed just being out. And most of the people do appreciate everything you do. It's just a fantastic opportunity for anyone that wants to help the city of San Marino continue in its way. And I look forward to another election in November to bring some new blood onto the city council.
And I guess I would echo what Vice Mayor Talt has said from my perspective. It is a very special opportunity to work with 5 people that are so passionate and committed to this community that they are willing to do it for no compensation, for all of the time that's invested. The decisions sometimes are easy, but sometimes are very, very difficult. And as Vice Mayor Talt said, sometimes there are 5% of the community. There's 5% of the community that is unhappy with the decision that has been made. And those are difficult moments. And I am always impressed by 5 people who look the hard decisions in the face and make them. It really is an amazing opportunity to, as Vice Mayor Talt said, serve your community and really make a difference. And it is an amazing opportunity for the professional staff to work with elected officials that, again, that just are so passionate and so caring and so committed to making San Marino the best organization and the best community that it can be. So we too are excited about who might be coming along and what names we might see and who we might get to partner with next. The council has done some amazing things in the last 4.5 years since this council was seated. Really quite a lot of accomplishment. It's very impressive. And we look forward to new partners in doing a little bit more in the next few years. So with that, let us turn to Q&A. I know we have a couple of questions that have come in. We have about 10 minutes left. Madam Community Engagement Manager Quadras, will you please take the facilitating floor?
Absolutely. So we have 2 really good questions in the chat box already. I'm going to flip the first one over to the Vice Mayor to start. Although San Marino is a smaller city, does San Marino have any impact on issues that affect the region? For example, San Gabriel Valley or the foothills or our greater area?
Well, yes, we do. One of the appointments that is made is we have a representative that sits on the San Gabriel Valley area government representatives. They will make, and San Marino, just like any other city, has one city, it's a one city, one vote. So if there's decisions that are being made, San Marino has as much as impact on that than anyone else. We have become more involved at times, especially when it came to Metro money dollars, as to the impact that we have. So yes, although we are a smaller city, we can and do have an impact on issues that affect the region.
And Dr. Marlowe, I know you work with the COG as well. I mean, do you have anything else to add on kind of our impact to the greater region, or things you see that council members do that kind of wage influence?
Sure. There are a number of regional bodies that we can participate on. As Vice Mayor Talt said, there's the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, the COG, if you will, and our city council does have a liaison who is part of the COG. Currently, that's Mayor Jacobowski, and that is exactly as you would expect, the San Gabriel Valley cities that all come together to discuss whatever issues might seem pertinent and relevant. But there are other bodies as well. There is an organization that is called the California League of Cities, and those are all of the cities in California, but there is an LA division, so the LA County Department. And we do have a representative to that group as well. And then growing even bigger, there is the Southern California Association of Governments, that is SCAG. If you are up on all of the housing challenges that we are facing, you have heard the name SCAG, and probably not said with a lot of love. SCAG has been challenging for us in terms of housing numbers, but that is a Southern California organization that we also have a liaison associated with. And I guess I would say, I think I would echo what Vice Mayor Talt said earlier in terms of preparation, which is, you know, it's varying and it depends on what you put into it. And the same would be true for the region. We are able to be influential when we engage. And as Vice Mayor Talt indicated, we are engaging more than we historically have. And my position as a staff person is that the more we engage, the more our voice is heard, and the more we have the ability to influence matters that are going on either in the valley, the county, or even all of Southern California. It is true that our interests do not always match up perfectly with some of our neighbors, but if we aren't even at the table for those conversations, then our voice never gets heard to begin with. So if that's something that someone is passionate about, there are many opportunities to make a difference, not just within the boundaries of San Marino, but also outside the boundaries in some of the wider regional bodies.
And that's an important part of all of this, and that is there are people who have been involved in the city council whose focus has been on the city's representation or representing the city in some of these outside bodies. For example, the present mayor likes to be involved in those type of organizations. And we also, by the way, we don't have a lobbyist in Sacramento. We've considered it. However, the cost associated with it does not make that much sense to us. We have met with our local elected representatives outside the city. For example, Council Member Romy and I met with some elected officials over issues that were very important, specifically SB 9 and SB 10. So we always have the opportunity to express ourselves, and I do believe that they listen. They may not agree with us, but I do believe they listen to us.
So you kind of started answering the second question already, Vice Mayor, thank you. So in that vein, you know, what can residents of San Marino do to help support the council in kind of being represented in these regional issues? And is there something that we can do to kind of make a greater impact when it comes to being represented in these items? And I'll turn to the Vice Mayor first, and then Dr. Marlowe, if you want to chime in with anything else.
Do I feel there's a lack of representation for San Marino residents' concerns? In the sense that I don't believe there's well, yes, there's a lack of representation in the sense that someone who runs for a statewide or a local position, for example, state senator or representative, doesn't necessarily carry San Marino. And so an elected official may not carry San Marino. But I do believe that we don't have a lack of representation in the sense that we're always able to get our beliefs expressed across to these individuals. And as I said earlier, they will listen. Dr. Morrow?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would offer a slightly different, although not oppositional perspective, which is the more long-term the relationships are, the more influential we are able to be. And that's true in any sort of representation situation. If our elected officials, our regional elected officials, only hear from us when we are unhappy about a particular thing, it becomes much harder to be influential. And so I think that the specific question here is, what can residents do to support these efforts? And I'm not sure that there's anything directly that residents can do except to support your council members when they engage in activities beyond the city limits. I think that one of the things that has been so wonderful about San Marino is we're so very focused on what goes on here, and it's part of what's made us amazing. We really are different than our neighbors. And there are things about San Marino that set us apart and make us special. And it becomes easy to stay focused on what we're doing here. But I think that if the residents can really support the council members when they go beyond our city borders and attend some of these larger events, that's really, as those bodies are accustomed to seeing us year in and year out, all the time, hearing our voices, building relationships, making friendships, that's when we have the ability to be a little bit more influential. But as the Vice Mayor said, we do start at a little bit of a different place because our interests are not always the same. And so it requires a lot of support for those kind of long-term relationships from where I sit.
Well, thank you both for those questions. While I give some people some time to maybe put one or two more in the Q&A box, I have some rapid fire questions for City Clerk Baker. Hypothetically, if I'm running for City Council in San Marino, which I'm not, because that would be a conflict of interest because I work here and I love working here. So who runs the actual election? Is that you?
No. No, our elections are consolidated with the county. So LA County runs the elections. That's why there's a drop off ballot box outside City Hall, and it has the big old LA County logo on it. So they run our elections, but I am the point person for the city. So I liaise with them. So any, forms and stuff you need to turn in for the election, you would come to me. So I am your point person for that, but they do run the actual election.
Perfect. And so once I am actually a candidate, certified candidate, what do I have to, is there anything else I have to do after that?
Yes, so there are some forms from the Fair Political Practice Commission, mostly about how much money you have coming into your campaign, what you've spent from your campaign funding. So you do have forms periodically. There's 2 prior to the election, and then after the election, there's some filings that you have to do as well. That is also covered in the handbook with the specific dates and which forms you need to do and all of that.
Okay, and probably last question that I have prepared in my hypothetical situation. If I'm a successful candidate and I get elected on a city council, when do I get to join Vice Mayor Toltz on the city council?
That will be, I'm checking my calendar, December 14th. That is the council meeting where the reorganization happens. So that's when you would officially come in, you'll receive an oath of office and officially take your place on the council.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you for walking me through my hypotheticals. And I hope those hypotheticals help any of you on here who are considering running.
And the question regarding who handles the actual election is important, because just today I received a telephone call of a woman representing several other members of the community who wanted to know why San Marino did not have a ballot location, or why was there confusion regarding this. As I informed her, and I believe she called Christina, that it is not this, the city doesn't run this election, it's run by the county. They select where the ballot boxes are going to be, or where you can elect. And the person who to contact locally would be Supervisor Vargas. She would be the person to contact, and I encouraged her to do that.
Thank you, Vice
Yeah.
Mayor, for helping our office out with that question.
Your Supervisor Barger is delighted also.
Yes. Well, I don't have any further questions in the Q&A. So, and that is all for my hypothetical rounds of questions. If Vice Mayor Tall or Dr. Morello or Christina, if you have any other last wrapping up thoughts for us.
If anybody has any questions, I know that we have some people on this that are interested in running. They could contact me through my city email address, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, because I want people to be prepared. I want people to be excited. I want people who are excited to maintain and improve San Marino.
I would just echo Vice Mayor Talt. I want all of those things as well. I am sad to be not working with the same council that I've been with for the entire time virtually that I have been here, but excited also about what might lie ahead and want the same kind of candidates that he does. Let me just wrap up. Go ahead to the final slide, Nicole. Let me just wrap up by saying that we are all available. We have had this town hall meeting tonight. It is going on right now simultaneously in English and in Mandarin. Every once in a while, I slip into the Mandarin translation. I don't understand any of it, but I know that it's going on, and I'm very grateful that we have the opportunity to make it available in a language that many of our residents speak. Both of these recordings, that is to say the English version and the Mandarin version, will be posted on our website with links to it. This PowerPoint presentation is also available in Chinese, and Community Engagement Manager Quadras did drop the PDF into the chat link. So please feel free to open that and take it with you. That will also be available on our website. And so if you were so impressed with this presentation and you want some of your friends to see it as well, the recording will be available, and we certainly hope that this is one of those that becomes viral. We want everybody to see it and to get a sense of what's involved in being a council member and the responsibilities and the joy. So certainly I am available. If anybody has questions, you can always reach out to me at the email address that's listed here on the slide, citymanageroffice@cityofsanmarino.org. You can always reach out to Christina if you have technical questions about the election. That is cityclerk@cityofsanmarino.org. Vice Mayor Talt has shared that you can contact him. I suspect that both Mayor Jacobowski and Councilmember Udi, although they are electing to not run this fall, also have the same level of investment in hoping that we get new people, and would also be delighted to hear from you. So I'm sure that the number of people that you can reach out to if you have questions, there is no shortage. So please don't hesitate if we can be helpful in any way. We are so delighted that you took some time with us here today, asked some questions, got some information. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you all so much for your time tonight, and we will see you next time. Good night, everybody.
Night.